I don't believe it. We're through week 3 and heading into week 4. So how are you? Really, I mean, seriously, how you doing? Because, I don't know for you. Again, I've said this probably before. I'm not sure how your start of the semester was, but this was not an easy semester for me. The fact that I'm teaching 2 programming languages and 2 other preps definitely had something to do with it. But it just seems like so much has changed. Adapting to that change, you know, I mean, it's good. I am one that typically likes change, so I like to learn to be better at adapting. But sometimes I don't do so good. How about you? I'm curious. So you could reply to that if you want. So we are heading into another big content jump for us, which is objects, right? So we're heading into, and I'm sitting here looking at section 5 in here. I just kind of just briefly looked, and I know it's a lot of content, right? So here's going to be my thing that you're going to hear me say, like, do not try to do this in one sitting. As a matter of fact, I recommend, I'm just going to say this, and I know this, like, all of your lives are different and your schedules are different, and maybe, but I also, and I almost want to say maybe this doesn't work, but I would say try to figure out how to make this work. It will be better for you to grasp these concepts, is to break it into, allow yourself maybe 3 days a week. I mean, preferably when I was going through this content the first time, I tried to code a little every day, because here's the other benefit to coding every day is that, and you may have run into this already, sometimes like when you code and if you wait a little while, the next time you pick up and do a little coding, it takes a little while to get your head back into it. And so what coding every day will help you do is really start to get the muscle memory, right? And help that mind start thinking more. Because here's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get you to think like JavaScript. Because even though the creators of JavaScript have over the years tried to make JavaScript so much more accessible, meaning people can grasp these concepts, what you need to do for your life to integrate this knowledge can vary based on a lot of different factors. And for many of you, this is your first programming language. So giving yourself enough time to really allow those concepts in is important. And here's the other thing that I do when like right now, I'm doing Python for the first time, teaching it. And what I do is I'm using a Udemy course, a little different format than what Andrew does. Andrew's very well produced. This other one, not as much, but still really good content. There's less content, but it's kind of beefier. And the thing I would tell you I do, and I recommend doing, is I code, and then the next day, and I leave it. The next day I come back to it and I review it to see how well did I grasp that concept. Okay. That's my process. That's what I do. So what do you think of that, right? So are you, and you're welcome to or not reply to this part, right? Are you doing these code alongs in one chunk? It's not recommended, but are you? And are you also finding, and this may be a function. This may be also dependent on if you've had other programming languages and it takes not as much time to grasp the next one. This is very common. Like your first language can take the longest and take the heroic effort to help you really get it, because not only are you learning the language, you're also learning how to code something. But you got this, really. And, I really appreciate that. I've seen several of you interacting on Discord. I think that's wonderful. Thank you very much for everyone who does that. And I've seen some of you in my office hour. I'd love to see more of you come talk or chat with me, because here's the deal. We're running in. We're on week 4, starting in. Next week, next Monday, the holiday. So we got that week 4. Yeah, I was like, what? Oh yeah, so that should be moved. But then week 6 is your first dev, okay? Your first opportunity to develop something. And I start talking about this next week, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time here really anymore, just to tell you that's coming at you in week 6. And it's 50% of this grade is all our dev work. Like all of our learn together is 25, all our code up is 25, and our develop it is 50%, making up 100. That tells you how important I feel about learning how to actually create and code something. And so giving yourself enough time to do that is important. So I finished grading your learn together week 3, and for the most part, I think like half of you got the return value, call another function. Some of you didn't attempt it. And I realized that I said attempt it, right? And I didn't make it a hard requirement, but I didn't even see in your code that you were like, if I had seen some notes saying, how would I use that? I'd see some effort maybe in that. And I read your write-up as well. And maybe the 5 points for those of you that didn't get it. Maybe you want to challenge that, which is totally cool. Really, totally cool. I find that refreshing because students care about their grade. I think that's good. So let me go over the one concept that I know can take a little while. And this is part of your Dev 0. So I want you to get this. Before I go over this code, I want you to pause right now and read this code and tell me, or tell yourself by pausing, what do you think is going to happen? What is the output of line 11? Okay, so pause that right now. And when you're ready, come back. Now here's my first question. How many of you actually paused it and did it, right? And then you replied, did you get it right? So let's walk through it. So I have 2 functions. Now, again, here, first, what could I use instead of let? It's const, right? Because functions typically, they're const, they're values that are not going to change, right? So it's one of the things I talk about in week 4. So I have a function add to. Okay, so I have an argument and a parameter. I have a default parameter if nothing is passed in. And then I just do a simple return. And I say take whatever comes in and add 2 to it. Then I have another one, add 3, almost identical. And by the way, we call this a signature too. It's just the way, the syntax that we use to set this up. But you're going to learn later how to do arrow functions that basically drop this and have some other things we have to consider. But in this case, I'm passing in a parameter. I'm taking that parameter, adding 3 to it, and returning it. So in this case, this first, right? So I'm saying let new number equal to the return value from invoking or calling add to and passing the argument 10 into the parameter. Okay, so what's 10 here gets passed in, becomes, in this case, because we are passing it in, we're not going to hit the default value. So what's that, if I was to console log out val here, right? We know that value here, well, that's part of understanding, is going to be 10, right? So we take that, right? And then what comes back, the return value, what comes back gets stored on the, and by the way, this is the global scope, right? So in this case, if we pass 10 in, we add 2 to it, that's 12. And now we're going to call add 3, but this time, instead of a numeric value, we're going to pass the variable new number that was returned from the first one. This is what I mean by your second, using the return value from the first to pass to the second function. And then in here, I'm using that passing that value, which now, because that was 12, comes in 12 plus 3, returned 15, and then I console log it. So how many of you, when you looked at this code, knew it was 15? Right? And what's the value of this one? If I just call add 2, but I don't pass anything into it, what's the return value? Well, if I'm not passing anything in, it's going to declare that val as 0, return 2 to it. It should be 2. So if I run this code, it should be 15 and 2. So one of the things that I looked at my video from that I did last night, and when you watch stuff you've done, you realize you could have done a better job. And I think using a more simplified code example may help drive these concepts home better. So we can all get better. We can all get better at what we're doing. And I strive to get better on a constant basis. And this is one of the ways you do it, is you do something, you review it, you see where you can get better. So what I did today before this video is I looked at the Learn Together for week 4. And, I was like, okay, that actually was better with what I thought I did in week 3. But again, sometimes my perception and your perception, but, again, I'm continuing. And this is one of the things I'm going to tell you, I'm going to post this in the reply here, is learning how these dev tools work. I'm telling you, it is a superpower. And if you spend a little time, which some of you didn't even comment, that was one of the things I was looking for in your post, is like, did you do this and did it help you understand what I was trying to get you to understand? And somebody made the comment to me, and it wasn't like a diss. It was like, well, it's a long video. Well, yeah, right? Because it's like if you're and I always say this, if you're sitting in class, like you had to come all the way to campus, sit in the class and have me do that, would it take that long? Well, yeah, probably. So this way you can stop it. But I also get it's 18 minutes. So sometimes in your mind right? So today, just because I thought I'd do this, I speeded up my Learn Together week 2. And I know many of you do this naturally. You just speed up things that are talking like that. So, if you can understand at 2x, then cool. But if you can't, play to your strength, right? Make sure that you're giving yourself the biggest advantage here. Understand how you learn best is really probably one of the things I would say to you, because the most valuable thing I ever learned was learning how I learn and playing to my strength, so that if this instructor was teaching in a way that wasn't my natural way of learning, then I had to figure out how to do that. But here's the deal, is I really appreciate your feedback. Like, at this point in the semester and coming into week 4, is there something you were like, I wish you would do this? And maybe it's what I just did, which is using more simple examples to describe concepts, or maybe, I don't know, what is it? And that'd be the other thing to reply to this, right? Like, what is it you would like to see me do? What is it you think you would need to do if you're, like wherever you're at in this class? What do you feel is working well? What would you want to change? All right, we're on week 4. And rock on, weather's getting better. So sky, you actually can see it. Great gratitude to our firefighters and our healthcare workers and anybody working on the front lines of any of the things going on in our world. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank all of us for showing up, right? There's nothing, we haven't been here before, and it's all going to continue to change, and learning to adapt to change can be your biggest skill. I know for me, I work on it. So, all right, have a great weekend. Thanks a lot. And I will chat with you soon. I've posed a couple questions here. So is there anything else, right, you want me to chat about next week? Have I missed something? Please tell me. Thanks.